What is up, YouTube? This is Derek Peterson. I got Greg Smith with me. Greg, hello.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. Um, I'm good. I wore a specific hat just for you, and in a little bit we'll break out the Phoenix Suns gear that I have specifically to troll you.
I don't know why you would want to put some garbage like that on, but hey, I guess you're trying to find something worse than this Cubs gear you got.
um, so to anybody that is watching this and may have watched the, I guess, first iteration of it on Tuesday or whenever you watched it, we're just talking about the taking stock of running back series that I have been doing on HailVarsity.com. Well, it's not a running back series. It's taking stock of position group series that I've been doing on HailVarsity.com, running through every single position group on the team as we exit spring ball and just sort of resetting the field for where we're at. Greg and I got together, and I'll give you kudos again. This was Greg's idea. Thank you, Greg, for this. More content, keep the wheel churning. Um, Greg had the idea to just get together and talk about it a little bit more in front of a camera so that you guys could watch it on YouTube. Because Husker fans are awesome in the sense that they will never stop wanting to talk about Nebraska football. So we talked about outside linebackers. Um, on Tuesday. Time is a flat circle. And we're going to talk about running backs today. We did defense. We're going to do offense today. And Greg, buddy, this is a weird room. This is a very weird room. And I kind of I'm high on this room. I'm high in the sense that I am optimistic about the talent that Ryan Held has accumulated and added to this group. But as we exit spring ball, Marquise Stepp didn't participate in the spring because of pre-spring surgery. We found out that like Ramir Johnson missed a lot of the spring. Ronald Thompkins missed time and has since departed. He's in the transfer portal. Guys missed with like bumps and bruises here and there. And it seemed like really like Marvin Scott and Jacques Yant were maybe the most consistent of the bunch in terms of just being on the field. And so, like for me specifically, I've kind of, and I'm gonna center this conversation on Step for a second, just because I think he can kind of be emblematic of the whole. I kind of thought it's not a big deal if he misses the spring because I mean, regardless, he's going to be your most experienced back going into the fall. So as long as he's okay for the fall, you're fine.
Mhm.
But you know, at the end of the day, with the skill position, sometimes the best ability is availability. And it seems like with this running back room, though there is talent, and I forgot to mention Savion Morrison, who also missed time in the spring, though there is talent, availability doesn't seem to be an ability that is in great supply. Does that worry you about this running back room? I think that's the place to start.
Yes, that is to me the biggest worry for me about this room is the lack of availability through the spring, and I think that and it goes hand in hand with something else that concerns me after that is that it just isn't long the position group as a whole on experience, right? And so the only guy that really has that experience, Marquise Stepp, that you mentioned, but he doesn't have it at Nebraska in this system and in this conference. And so I just worry that it's going to be an adjustment because I was not with you. We've talked about this like off video, like before, not just today, that I was not with you on that. I was concerned all along that Step missed the spring because I just think that getting acclimated to everything just takes some time and that it's harder than you would think to just hit the ground running in the fall. While he might be able to do that, and that's now the best case scenario, I just think that's tough. So yeah, the lack of availability through the spring for multiple guys as they now then head into this huge summer in which they're still battling, like we still don't know, and we also don't know 100% when Step is coming back and when he's going to be right. So there's also that kind of mystery cloud that's hanging out there too. It's just the position, like you said, is just it has talent, and so you can't just write it off. But it's still a mystery and kind of a grab bag on what you actually can expect to get from the group.
So Tompkins entered the transfer portal, like I mentioned. It sucks. It sucks for him. Knee injuries suck. They kind of take more than just the allotted like recovery timetable before you're medically cleared to come back from knee injuries, particularly like ACL tears. Sometimes they just suck. Sometimes you need a change of scenery. So Tompkins is moving on. I wish him nothing but the best. It leaves Ramir Johnson as the guy from that class, 2019 class, right? So
Yep.
they took three because Wando was technically an all-purpose back, so they took three backs in that class, and two of them have left. And Ramir Johnson is the only one remaining, and he seems like he might be a little buried on the depth chart. This has become a theme with Nebraska where we talk about barren recruiting classes, either on the whole or it's at key positions.
Yep.
Are you potentially worried about that 2019 crop of running backs maybe causing problems for the running back room just from a depth standpoint or just from a development standpoint on the whole? We don't have to spend a ton of time on this.
No, actually, and a lot for the same
Okay.
reason that I'm not concerned about it from the wide receiver. It's the same reason. It's because they continue to bring guys in. Like you have to give them that. Like, yeah, there's been departures, but there's been no shortage of other guys backfilling that, and in part, and really even more at running back, the reason why those guys have been moving on or will continue to move on potentially is that there are other guys that are the same age or younger that there may be looking up at on the depth chart.
We could I did a stock rising section in my piece where I had Ryan Held as somebody whose stock is rising, which I think it should because I think he's a wonderful coach with head coaching experience who probably should start getting some looks here in a couple of years as long as he keeps building talent. I also had Jacques Yant in that section for stock rising, but in reality, I could have put three guys in this, and the three that benefited the most from this spring, probably in Yant, Gabe Irvin, who's a true freshman, early enrollee, and Marvin Scott, who's in his second year. Greg, let's talk specifically about Irvin because he's kind of the new guy to the room. He's the one everybody is excited about. I have referenced this before. I did a piece for Hail Varsity looking at true freshman running back production. It's really hit or miss. It's not really contingent on whether you are a high star recruit or whatever for who produces the most, but you're either producing a ton like AJ Dillon level at Boston College, or you're getting like 100 yards and not a ton of touchdowns, not a ton of opportunity. A lot of them are redshirting. Do you think, and we've talked about this before, as we're a little bit more removed from spring now and you've been able to digest everything that was kind of said about Irvin and everything that we saw from Irvin in the spring game, and then we got to talk to him a little bit after the spring game, do you think that he is a legitimate contender for snaps this fall?
Yes, absolutely. I think he's a legitimate contender for snaps. I think he's a legitimate contender to start as a true freshman, which is surprising. I can't even stutter over it because it's not even that you didn't know what to expect from him as a true freshman. It just wasn't he just wasn't someone that when he signed you thought, oh yeah, he's going to be a guy that's going to come in and compete. But then I had to remember one of the things that I do say kind of quite a bit is that once guys get here, all bets are off because the star ranking really doesn't matter, and it becomes a lot about the type of room that you entered. And there was not a better situation maybe on the team than the room that he entered to be able to then get a shot to, make an impact during the spring and then play, right? And it seems from all accounts that he has made the most of that opportunity. And so I feel really confident in saying that he's going to be in the mix to play this season. I definitely think that he's a stock up guy right now.
Yeah, and he's a guy that's got good size for a true freshman. He's got good feet.
Mhm.
Seems like he took well to the playbook pretty early. And like you said, I mean, all bets are off whenever those guys get here. And in a lot of instances, like the guys that have the best first year are the guys that you don't expect to have the best first year. Like the 5-star guys are going to get their role as a backup or a third string or a utility guy that comes in on third down or whatever, and they're going to do what they do because they're really talented. But like you said, sometimes fit and the room that you walk into is the most important. And like if we learned anything from this spring, it's that the the running back room is just completely wide open. We have no idea who's going to be the starter. We have no idea who's going to be the backup. We have no idea if the starter in week 1 is going to be the starter in week 6 or whatever it is. Yeah, it's the field is constantly shifting. Does that excite you because there is potential? Does that worry you because we don't know? Like, where are you at with this running back room, just in terms, because like one of the sections of this piece, of this recurring piece, is fall outlook, and I said a lot of optimism there, a lot of opportunity there. Someone got to go grab it. So are you glass half full with this room, or are you glass half empty with this room?
I am glass half full because I do believe in the talent that they have in the room, and that somebody is going to go grab this thing during the summer. And you know, I think it was the last time that we talked to Ryan Held right before the spring game, in which he kind of, I thought he was as honest and open as you've seen a coach. Outside of that time we talked to Greg Austin really this spring, where he was just great that one time for, it felt like 25 minutes. I thought Held was really honest about like what he needed to see from his guys in the summer. That was when he gave the now famous, like, it's going to be Rocky Four this summer. But he talked about within that answer, and that got all the attention, but within that answer, he talked about which guys needed to lean up and how they needed to be looking at their diet during the off season. And when it was hot outside, they needed to be out on a field sweating, and, you know, all the little things that they needed to do. And he basically, through the media, issued a challenge to those guys saying, hey, these carries are here and they're available. Somebody needs to step up. And I think that kind of fires me up. So hopefully, as for those guys that are hearing that, one of them or two, hopefully for Nebraska's sake, decides that, hey, I'm going to take this challenge. I'm take the ball and run with it.
I just want you to know that I was going to borrow a segment from your podcast, uh, Coach Speak, and I was going to read off this Rocky Four quote and ask you, what in the hell is Ryan Held talking about with this Rocky Four thing? And now I can't do that because you just told me what he was talking about. So
Sorry.
you ruined my segue and a way to plug
Oh
your podcast. But
man,
yes, this
I
so no talk about Greg's podcast. But this Rocky Four quote was awesome. Needs to be Rocky Four. We got to get in there and get after it and then be ready to go this fall. I like the room, but we don't have anybody that's returning with a whole bunch of experience. Our guys are hungry and they know that the questions are out there. What does the room look like? And that's motivation for us. That's great. We need that. We're not going to make any excuses. We've got to get it done. And that was one thing that I appreciated about Ryan Held, and really a lot of the offensive coaches this spring, was that no excuses were made from the offensive coaches, from the assistants. Could say the same thing about a guy like Tony Tuioti on defense. No excuses were made. There was a sense of urgency when we talked to Held, and then when we talked to Greg Austin, who is the run game coordinator, sort of by extension about the running game and the running backs. It was a lot of, it wasn't good enough last year, which, I mean, if you look at, like, you could look at what happened with Dedrick Mills in the final game against Rutgers and say, like, hey, that's a step in the right direction. Or you could look at the first, 7 games of the season for Dedrick Mills, and then all 8 games for all the other guys, and say that Nebraska didn't have a running back averaging more than 4 yards a carry up until Dedrick Mills had like half of his yardage on the season in that one game. So yeah, they do have to be better, and they are going to have one guy really kind of take hold of that position, because to this point, the coaching staff has been sort of adverse to going with a by committee approach. They have wanted to find that guy that can be an every down ball carrier. And I mean, like, we could talk about, like, well, they didn't really live it with Wan'Dale Robinson. Well, they kind of did, because Wan'Dale turned into their every down ball carrier. But like, if they're gonna go to a by committee approach, if they're gonna just bite that bullet and do it, Greg, do you think this is a room that is capable of doing that? Do you even like that strategy?
I do not like the strategy. I also don't know that they have the type of room to do that. And the thing that would worry me about doing it by committee, if you were talking about, say, 3 guys, or maybe, you know, 4, because they have the bodies to do that. It, everyone is so inexperienced outside of step. So like, I feel like getting game reps and going through all of that is the thing that would really help speed up the development of those guys. And how quickly can you do that if you're utilizing a by committee approach. Like I feel like when they get to the first game against Illinois, like they need to have settled on two guys, maybe a third that kind of can get sprinkled in, and then just and roll with that. Like I just think that would be more beneficial, and I think that would raise the level of expectation for what this group could be.
That's fair. And I don't think there's ever been a running back that's ever been in favor of a by committee approach.
Right.
I think they all want to be like, nope, give me 25 carries and let me go to work. We kind of get into the rhythm of the game. Greg, Thursday, May 20th, Friday, May 21st, whenever you are watching this, viewer at home or on your computer or whatever, or Saturday or whatever. May prediction, who is the starter on August 28th?
Man, I'm gonna go with Gabe Irvin right now, reluctantly, because I don't. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Gabe. It's not nothing to do with him. It's just really tough to pick which person you think it is. But I'm glad you time stamped it so that you can ask me this again on June 20th.
Is it bad that my answer might potentially have changed from like 2-3 weeks ago when we did the depth chart projection? Is that a bad thing?
No, because I think it's fair. Who did you have the first time? Remind me.
I had Step as the number one and Scott as the number two. And my justification for Step was that he's still the safe and I thought odds on favorite.
Okay.
Seemed like the safe play. I might go with Scott.
Okay.
I might do it.
Okay.
I don't know, but this is, I mean, and you and I have talked about this at a lot of positions. Like this is the thing is there's so many unknowns, which makes it hard to project, but also makes it fun to talk about. So that's kind of where we're at. Thanks for doing this, Greg. Again, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me again. Also, listen to the Straight Up Breakdown podcast. Since Derek tried to steal my plug.
Listen to the Straight Up Breakdown podcast. Go watch Rocky IV. Get all hyped up for the off season. Keep reading Hail Varsity. I guess subscribe to the YouTube page or Facebook if you're watching it on Facebook. I don't know. Wherever you are finding this, subscribe or follow the Hail Varsity brand account so that our bosses are happy. Cool. Thanks, guys.